Is the May 14th meeting of the Dobbs Ferry Zoning Board of Appeals, and we have three matters on our calendar for tonight. The first one is an application concerning 200 Ashford Avenue, and is someone present for the applicant?
Is there somebody, yeah, Christina's going to promote him.
Is Mr. Badali on Zoom?
Good evening. This is Shaheen Badali representing the applicant. Can you hear me okay over there?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. If I may, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So we have before you the application for 200 Ashford Avenue. We haven't made any changes to the application or the site plan since it was last before you. We did submit a statement just outlining the criteria for the variance, as well as elaborating on the uniqueness of the case, as well as elaborating on the just generally what the requirements were. Should I go through those points, or?
I mean,
Copy of the statement.
yeah. Oh,
See it or what
just a moment.
Yeah, please.
I think it would be helpful if you maybe hit on some of the highlights of it. I have read it. I'm not sure if everyone on the board has.
Thank you. So the first point being whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood, or if a detriment to the nearby properties will be created. And it's our statement that the modest increase in the impervious coverage and the reduced lot area per dwelling unit is necessary to enable the adaptive reuse of the existing building and its footprint, while still accommodating parking and maintaining essential modern code compliant upgrades, both to the site and the building. Overall, the proposed improvements will increase the desirability of the site and the surrounding area, increase the value of the properties, and it will not adversely affect the neighboring properties. Whether the alleged hardship relating to the property is unique, and whether it does not apply to a substantial portion of the district. The property is unique in the sense that it's an existing 3-story structure on a corner lot that remained vacant for quite some time. It was deteriorated in its nature, and its lot configuration and placement on the lot, being that it's very fronted on the street and that it has that larger rear yard that is accessible from a street, does make it unique in that district. Further, the existing conditions of the site and the ability to add parking is unique to this site, where most sites would not be able to add parking on Ashford Avenue or in this district. So the site is unique that we're able to provide almost all of the compliant necessities to meet the zoning. However, we do require these variances. Whether this requested variance is substantial, though the numerical value of the variances do appear substantial, the practical and environmental impact of granting the variances does not appear substantial through the mitigation efforts that we've made. And we believe that will result in a net benefit both to the neighborhood and the community. Whether the alleged difficulty is self-created, the difficulty is partially self-created, and of course that the applicant could maintain the building with its current setup. However, it's not fully self-created in the sense that it's not profitable currently, and the applicant has a necessity to make profitable development, and therefore, and as well as have a productive building that will have a productive tax base for the village. And in that sense, it is somewhat not self-created. And whether the proposed variance would have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions to the neighborhood or the district. And we believe that, by bringing the property back into productive use, the project would actually enhance those conditions, improve the aesthetics, and as well as provide necessary improvements to the site and the visible nature of the building from the streetscape. And with that, if there's any questions from the board, please.
Well, let me just notice, and I appreciate you, laying out your points in terms of the criteria. One of those criteria, though, I don't think you addressed, at least not head on, is whether the benefit you're seeking could be achieved by another feasible method.
Oh, thank you. And that's a great question because we did seek alternatives, and this was the best alternative that we were able to represent to the board in working with the planning board previously, and so we we do believe that this is the best alternative. Does that answer the question properly?
Well, I guess specifically, I mean, one of the variances you're seeking is related to the number of dwelling units. I mean, essentially, you're adding a dwelling unit. Could you just speak to the economics of a plan that left the property with 2 units instead of 3 units?
Yes, and excuse me for not submitting a more detailed cost analysis of the project that displays that offset. But the building required pretty substantial renovations, an undertaking that the applicant did not originally anticipate would be so substantial, as well as fully renovating the exterior of that building. And in doing so, they are hoping to offset their investment by generating this new income. The first floor also, because it doesn't have current parking and it doesn't really have a great layout, is quite a difficult space for them to rent out commercially. It's their intent that reduced space would be more amenable to rent as it would be smaller. It could be better used for a more local business. And so the applicant has that need mostly to offset their investment into their property.
Do you, or does the applicant have a idea of what the dwelling units will rent for?
I do want to mention that the applicant is in the boardroom currently. If perhaps he could comment on that directly.
If you do, just
Mr.
come up
Matthews?
to the mic.
Would you like to step up to the microphone?
Just state your name also.
Mohammed Sayem. That's my partner over there, Abraham Matthew.
Yes.
We are actually reducing the commercial and we are adding a 1-bedroom apartment at the back of the first floor. I would say the market rent should be around $2,000 around for a 1-bedroom.
Okay. And what about the upstairs?
Upstairs, it should be, we got a 2-bedroom and another 2-bedroom. I mean, 2, you could, I would say about 2,800 each.
Okay. Do we have other questions?
I find this to be very difficult because I think what you're asking is a substantial variance. I think it sets bad precedent for the broader community of Dobbs Ferry. I think you've not done as we've asked you to try to see if you come up with a plan, and maybe you did it with the planning board, but you haven't demonstrated to us what you have done to reduce the size of the variance. I don't think you've shown that it's not a self-created hardship, and that's the negative. On the positive, I acknowledge that the site has been neglected, abandoned for a considerable time, and that what you do, if I looked at it only from the prism of that one site, is definitely an improvement. So the question for me, and I'm not sure how I'm going to vote, is does the fact that you're improving the site outweigh the negative value of creating a precedent that will be used by other owners and other architects to create similar substantial requests for variances regarding impervious surfaces and lot coverage. And that's the issue that I, as one of the three members here today, is struggling with. And I really wish you had taken what we asked you to do last month and come back showing that you could or could not. Yes, it's important that you it's important that the site be economically viable, but I haven't seen evidence from you that a slightly different plan may not be maximally viable, but would be significantly enough viable so that you could invest in the property. And that's just my personal thinking about your application.
I really appreciate your opinion about it, but as you know, 200 Ashford, it's kind of like a very, almost like a blank spot for a commercial property that big. It will be very, very not feasible for anybody to come over there, open up a big commercial space without substantial amount of parking. And also, it's actually for the neighborhood, that's my personal opinion, it's better to have a residential, because we're basically cutting the commercial into half and half. So the commercial is much less than what it used to be. So residential is gonna help the neighborhood more than the commercial part. Commercial will generate a lot of traffic for the neighborhood. The residential, as we know, in every city, there is a shortage of residences.
So what if you just made it a larger residence? Because I think you're right. I don't know if there's a zoning reason or that would prevent you from converting it to strictly housing, what housing unit, whether that would make a difference in any of these calculations. It may not, but maybe it reduces your parking demand. Because there have been a lot of people who've tried to operate a business on that section of Ashford, on that side of the street. And I can't think of one that's been successful. So you're right. It's probably not going to be a successful location unless you come up with
It's
something.
gonna be almost impossible to rent the whole place as a commercial.
Right. So what if we did the opposite? I don't know what the calculations are, but what happens if that whole first floor becomes residential?
We think that we can rent the front portion of the commercial part to something like that does not need a lot of foot traffic. Something like a lawyer's office, something like an accountant's office, something like an architect's office. That's what we are aiming for, that it does not need a lot of foot traffic or anything. So that would be actually helpful for the neighborhood as well. A lawyer's office would be nice. Insurance company, insurance office would be nice too. Accountant, architect, those, that's what we are thinking.
That's a good thought. I'm still concerned about the increase of impervious.
But, we have spoken to several neighbors in the area, and they actually appreciate, that's the feedback we got, that they would prefer to have, a part of it as a resident because, they're thinking, okay, it's too big commercial, and also the things that I mentioned, the people and, bigger commercial, more people will be in the area. And of course, we need more residents in the area. And that's what the feedback from the neighborhood, that's what we got. And I think somebody called in the building department and spoke to, maybe Dan or somebody in the building department, one of the neighbor.
Yeah, one of the neighbors did speak to us. They're in favor of the application as it is now. They're right behind the resident.
Yes, right behind us.
Is there anyone either present or remotely who wants to be heard in connection with this application? Someone's out there? Is there a motion to close the hearing and perhaps have some discussion?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. So, you know, I think Bruce makes very good points, which in some ways, you know, I'm a little on the fence about. But I believe I agree with you. First of all, I do think it's a unique enough situation that when someone else comes with, you know, the same numbers, we're not going to say we have to do it because we did it here, because this is a fairly unique corner property with an existing structure. And so I'm persuaded that that shouldn't stop us from approving this. And I guess I'm also feeling that it does make sense to me that in this, you know, in this particular location on Ashford, a residence would be less disruptive to the neighborhood than a larger commercial, which would bring additional traffic and, you know, and create additional parking issues. And then I guess I would say also, I think it's a significant improvement over the application that was before us last October, where the concerns that were expressed by the board and also by some community members were about the lack of green space and the amount of the impervious surface. And I think that under the new plan, the variance isn't nearly as big as it was, and there is green space. So with all of that, and given that you know, we'd like to see something happen there, I think I'm in favor of overcoming our resistance and voting in favor.
I agree with your analysis. I share Bruce's concerns, but, you know, as I weigh the pros and the cons, I'm with the chairman in terms of the benefit to the community.
So I'm going to be a third yes vote. And it's because the current condition at that site is a blight. And for all of us who live somewhere in that vicinity, the new built condition will be a benefit.
Agreed.
I wish you luck on the commercial side.
Thank you
I
so
see
much.
So many failures on that stretch of Ashford. But
I think we have to officially make a motion and vote on it.
I'll
But
let one of you guys make the motion.
Motion to approve the variances as requested by the applicant.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you so much. Thank you. Really
Thank
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, so our next application is for 192 Northfield Avenue. Is someone here on that?
Oh, somebody
Someone
on.
present on Zoom? Okay.
It's a strange application.
I am here, and the owner is also on Zoom, I believe.
Okay, could you tell us your name?
Yes, Luke Hilpert from the Hilpert Law Offices on behalf of the owners of the property at 192 Northfield. And, you know, this evening I'm here in support of the application. And the applicants are seeking two variances here. The first is to allow for the construction of a second floor dormer. The house is pre-existing non-conforming, so the dormer will be in the same location on the front of the residence. It'll be on the second floor, viewable from the north side there. And it will not be, the setback there is required 25 feet. Right now, the setback is it's set back 14.9 feet from the property line. I'd also like to note that in this section, the property line is actually about 8 feet from the curb as well. So visually, it will be closer to the 25, even though um,
Yeah,
we're not
I'm
looking
sorry,
at the.
could I just stop you before you go on?
Sure.
You mentioned there's two, that you're seeking two variances?
The second variance is there currently exists around the back and the side of the property a 6 foot high vinyl fence, and they would like to.
That wasn't on this application.
Yeah, I think that's not noticed for this meeting. The notice only concerns,
Did they submit a separate application for a fence?
No, it was included in the, it should have been part of the original application in the supporting documentation with it, the letter and,
No, the only thing we have is for the building. That's the only plans that I viewed.
yeah, so we wouldn't be able to vote on a second variance because the public hasn't had notice of it. So if you'd like to,
the notice that was sent out did include both. Well, I understand what you're saying, it may not have been the plans, but the notice that was sent in the application included both, references.
do you have a copy of that, Dan?
The notice that we sent out?
The notice that I'm sorry, we sent to the neighbors. No, so
Yeah,
I guess
no,
not,
we
not the notice
noticed
we
for
sent to the
one.
public.
Yeah, no.
We could vote on the one for the building, but the fence isn't on here.
Right. I mean, if you want to present the case for the variance regarding the setback, and by the way, let me just state, so what is noticed is a request for a 10.9-foot variance to allow for a setback of 14.1 feet in a zone where there's a requirement for a 25-foot front yard setback. Do you want to, it's your call. We'll hear you on that. or we will-
I'll certainly continue with that one, sure. They're not, they're together on the application, they're not necessary to the project, to move forward at the same time. But that is something we would like to be heard on, and I guess I'm not. I believe our application and our documentation have both on there, so, so I apologize to the board for that. Going back to the request, it is just to build a dormer on that front, and I think we stated it through. I'm happy to walk through what we submitted in the letter, but essentially, as the 5 parts to the test here are viewed, I don't believe it'll be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. I think it would be an improvement, and looking up and down, even just this area, a lot of the houses are similar to this property in that they are, at one point they were single-story ranch homes that have been added to over the years. So I think it stays consistent with the character and quality of the neighborhood. Additionally, I think that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by any other method here. Because the property is pre-existing non-conforming, we're staying within that same footprint. Sure, we could expand it, but there would not be a less intrusive way for the applicant to do that, and if they're thoughtful in that consideration here. As far as the whether it's substantial or not, from a strict mathematical standpoint, it may seem substantial, but because again, the structure already exists in that setback, we are, it's going to go up a little bit. So from a mass standpoint, it may increase, but in that area, and I'm happy to share the screen if you'd like. And I think it's visible on the survey as well. The curb for where the street begins is a good 8 to 10 feet in portions off the property. I think. The shortest point I measured was around 6 feet. So in addition to the 10 feet, the curb And that 6 feet is in an area where there's already a 22-foot setback. In this area that we're talking about, it's 8 feet, then the property line begins, and then we have the the 14.9. So again, visually, it's less substantial than it actually is from a strict mathematical standpoint. And the purpose of the variance shouldn't have any negative impact on the physical environment. Again, we're not increasing any impervious surfaces. We're not increasing any ground coverage. Everything will stay the same. The disruption to the environment will be minimal. We're not adding any more traffic to the street. We're not anything further. And so, what was this? Lastly, was the variance self-created? And I always feel like it's very difficult for any variance not to be self-created. And of course, they want to add additional living space to their home. So this is out of a desire for them to increase their living space from about 1,200. 1 second, I'm sorry. It's about 1,676 square feet currently, and they're going to increase that by 223 square feet. And for their family of four, that's a significant increase to allow for better use of the upstairs space and just kind of as the way they use the house. If I won't speak on the fence.
All right. Anyone have questions? Is there anyone who wants to be heard on this application?
And if I could note, the applicants are on the call. I don't know if she wants to be heard, but
Not necessary. If they'd like to say something, they could. I think this is, given that it's a pre-existing, so not non-existing. It's that the actual effect is a benefit to the appearance, and I do think it's consistent with other setbacks on the street.
I agree.
Yes.
All right, I think
So
there's
motion to close
consensus.
the hearing?
All in favor?
Motion to approve the variance requested by this application?
All in favor? Aye.
thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you. And I suspect we'll be back soon for the fence.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So we'll look forward
And-
to seeing you again.
We're going to go to the planning. Can I just ask a procedural question? I'm sorry. We're going to be at the planning board. Would it be appropriate to bring that with them and then come back to you after so we can continue the process?
Dan?
Yeah, you could show it because it'll be pre-sub the first one.
Right. Okay.
And then if you get everything in for the fence, we could add that to the next zoning agenda.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Bye.
See you again.
Yes.
And the last item on our agenda tonight is for a plan to build a new deck at 13 Round Hill Road. And the applicant who wants to be heard, please step to the microphone and tell us your names.
Hi, this is Xijia Li and Shu Huanyu. We're their homeowners. We currently have a stone patio. It's from like 40 some years ago, so it's very old, and we're trying to replace it with a deck with the same footprint. It does require 4 different variances on their different sides. The new deck will look actually exactly the same as the 4 neighbors who already have the decks. They have already done the replacement, and their decks are also built up to their property line. So building a new deck will actually make us look more similar to the neighbors, and it will be nicer to look at because we have a pretty old deck. I'm sure they can enjoy a nicer deck as well. Yeah. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is, it's a cluster development there. That's why it looks like the
Right.
variances, but it was built with the patio there on the site plan. Now it's a deck. That's why we write the,
Yeah, this is the first Board of Zoning Appeal application from Walden Wood in the nearly 40 years I've been on this board.
Really?
And, yeah, you can't build it any other way than with what you're describing.
Right.
But I do, dare, if I may, have one question. As you know, because you did it, you had to go to the Walden Wood Board
HOA.
of Directors
Yes,
for a approval.
yes.
And you did get an approval, but it was contingent on a shift of material from Trex to wood.
Wood, yes.
Is that reflected?
Yes, it has reflecting your
Okay.
plan, yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we did got that, yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And do we have anything else to
No.
discuss? Is there anyone, I assume your neighbors, you haven't heard any objection to the plan?
Like everyone has a similar deck, so I assume they're like, this is normal.
Is there anyone else who wants to be heard on Zoom? Is there a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing?
All in favor? Is there a motion?
Motion.
To approve the application and grant the variances requested.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you. We feel like we've seen you on Wooden Woods meeting.
Yes. You know, it's funny, I wasn't sure whether I should make the motion because it's the first one I've ever had to do for Walden Wood, or I shouldn't, because I live in Walden Wood.
Well,
And I decided that it was an easy decision.
Anyway,
You're welcome.
so we will adjourn the meeting and